Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Tech Talk session with me, your host from Tech Jobs Fair. And today we are about to dive into a very interesting discussion. I believe you all know that we've always talked about how to master interviews, how to create amazing LinkedIn profiles, all of that. But today we're going to make the most use of how to work on your non-verbal skills in order to get through your maybe challenging, dream job roles. And for that, we have Mr. Ben Monday, who will be helping us understand the nonverbal skills. Ben is a communication coach who helps professionals across 6 countries unlock their voice and master nonverbal communication. He's an award winning speaker and event host, including TEDx. He is the VP of Education at Berlin First Toastmasters and a member of the Professional Speakers Association UK. Hi, Ben. How are you doing today?
Tripti, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today. And hello to all of those that are watching and with us. It's a strange one because I can't see you, but I know you're there. And so I'm hoping to bring some great stuff for you this afternoon.
Absolutely. We are super thrilled to have you join us, Ben. And I am personally very excited to see, what's coming along with this session. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be super beneficial for all of our viewers there. And this is to all my viewers. If you have any questions and if you have any queries, or if you want to be an active participant, please join us through your comments, comment down your questions, comment down your queries, and engage with us and participate with us. Right. But before we dive into the discussion and all of that, Ben, maybe you could take us through your journey and tell us how it has been for you in the industry so far.
Wow. Well, thank you. And we will be getting into things, and I want to keep this really nice and short because actually I'd like to spend as much time as possible giving your audience, the community, as much information. Very quickly, my background is that my first job was in fashion, and at some point I realized that I didn't want to be there, so I needed to change. I got into communications a couple of years ago, and it was really based on the fact that when I was young, I had 5 older brothers, and I never really had any voice. I remember my earliest memories were always at the dinner table, very noisy, loud. No one ever listened to me. And I didn't really know how to take up space. I didn't really feel confident. And when I was in my fashion job in corporate, when I had to stand in front of my team of just like 4 people, I just fell apart and I wasn't able to be the leader that I was. And a couple of years ago, I found communication. I'd been doing some somatic and embodiment work. So using the physical body as a way to change the way that we think and we feel. And then just layered that on top of the communication part and realized that actually the communication that we do is mostly nonverbal. And whether that's the
Mhm.
bit before we have to start talking around our knees shaking and our heart racing and our palms sweating, which is all a
Yeah.
physical somatic experience, or the way that we stand, the way that we gesture, the way that we count with our fingers, the way that we move, all of those are embodied processes, even the way we warm up our voice. So it's my real interest is helping people really take control of the non-verbal part of the transmission that they are creating, whether that's in a one-on-one conversation, whether that's one to many in front of a team, and also here what we're going to be looking at today around in this interview, those high pressure interviews when we can feel quite so how can we can take control of that and help everyone today have easier, better, and more successful interviews.
Absolutely. And I think this is the very important factor, but a lot of people, just neglect it and they don't pay a lot of attention to it. But I'm very excited that, you are going to bring this forward and enlighten us with tips and tricks that will make, the nonverbal thing much more important and people will understand the importance of it. Right.
Yes.
So I believe, yeah.
I was going to say we've engineered this to be a step by step process for everyone to listen to. So let's dive
Yes.
into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I believe, it all starts with research for anything, for a simple job to like the most challenging tasks. It all starts with research. So how can researching the company that you are going to interview for can boost your confidence when you're stepping into that interview room?
Yes, of course. Perfect place to start. If we have that interview, we're already, there's an interest in us being there. Knowledge is power.
Mm.
So the more that we know, the more confident that we can be. Our brains are prediction machines. So we kind of try and, the more the information we know, the more confident, the more that we know about a situation. We could pick out simple situations like, do you feel more confident when you're at home or when you are out in the office? Do you feel more confident if you're with family and friends, or do you feel more confident with strangers? All of those things are, the more information you have, the more confident that you can be in in your interview process. And I'll just
Mhm.
say into the link chat here, we've got some handouts for today, and so we've created some questions that can be helpful for this. As a communication coach, when I'm working with speakers and presenters, one of the most important things that we talk about is audience analysis. That is framing questions to understand who we're talking to. And it's the same with interviews. If you know the values of the company, if you know what projects they've been working on, even if you know the people that you will be interviewing or be interviewed by, those people, if you have that information, you're able to be more confident in the way that you might answer questions, but also the way that you walk into the room. Couple of clients that I work with, when they go in for their interviews, I get them to, if they can, find the interviewer's face on LinkedIn and just practice some questions. Because the body is, we just naturally, when we've seen someone's face, instead of walking into the room cold, if we actually kind of, we know what David Rebecca looks like, we know who Matthias or Susanna looks like. So really getting to know as much as we possibly can around the company, what's going on with the team, what are their values, all of those things helps us become far more confident. So when we walk in, we have the information, we have the knowledge. And so that's a really great start before even we even walk into the room.
Absolutely. But, we all know that we're humans. So, no matter how experienced we are, no matter how well prepared we are, we always get that sweaty hands before a big day, right? So, even if it's a good event, bad event, something you've done for a million times, you still get that sweaty hands. So,
Mhm.
how might, our listeners, our viewers manage their stress or the feeling of nervousness about the interview, even after doing their homework, their research, and being well prepared for the interview? How can
Yeah.
we get through or tackle our nerves?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the first thing to say is that nerves never go away. They really are. It's a perfectly natural human thing to have that kind of, the sweaty palms or the shaking of
Yeah.
the heart. It is. It's just like, it's, as a human, as an organism, we are going into a vulnerable space, a place where
Mhm.
people are looking at us. We are being perhaps judged on our professional, on our personal skills. And so it's a very vulnerable space, and it's perfectly natural for us as kind of, organisms, as in animals, to be like, oh my God, this person's, and it is, it's a very nervous space.
Yeah.
I think that what we can do is we can be firstly very conscious of it, and it's about learning to deal with it. So I want today to be as interactive as possible. So those of you that are home and that wish to do this with me, one of the first things I do is just shaking and tapping. And if what you can do is you can just start to, become more sensitive to the body, wake up and shake things out, allow the nervous energy to move. because that's it. Nervous
Hmm.
energy, nervous lack of confidence. All of a sudden, it builds up, and it's this energy that kind of rushes through our body. That is a very physical experience. So being very active with it, just kind of allowing things, shaking it off, allowing those things to really relax. And in one of the handouts, I've actually given a very quick 3-step process, which, Tripti, I'd love it if you would do this with me, because I'd love to just show it to the people at home.
Absolutely.
And we can see how you feel. So I'm not going to make you feel nervous. I hope I don't. But I want you to do we're going to start with what we call centering. And centering is the idea that we find our belly. And actually, just as we came
Hmm.
onto the stage, you might have seen me hold my belly. This is the middle part of our whole body.
Yeah.
Somewhere around your belly, you can put your hand on your belly button and just bring your
Hmm.
attention to your center, as we say. And this is the center of our gravity. Oh. And if you could do this, I know you're going to sit down and I'm standing. This is a good thing to do because probably some people at home are sitting. So it doesn't matter wherever you are in the world, wherever you're watching from this, whether you're standing or sitting, feel free just to do this with us. But if you're starting to feel nervous, bring your hand to your belly. Just belly button, somewhere here in your midriff. And just help
Hmm.
yourself breathe in through your nose and just allow your stomach just to expand and just slowly soften. And what we're doing here is we're bringing some awareness just to the center of our body. You can feel the warmth in your hand. And this is going to start helping you slow your breathing down. And this is what we call centering. So instead of being pulled all over outside external forces, we're just going to bring our awareness to our center. And the next thing I want you to do is what we say in our second step is ground. So whether you're standing, you can imagine also you can bring awareness to your feet, or if you're sitting, awareness into your seat, into the chair.
Hmm.
Allow yourself really to connect into the ground, into the chair, and just allow yourself to be centered and grounding into the earth. I'm just going to bend my knees a little bit. You can probably just see me come down a little bit. Just connecting with the floor. Sometimes anxiety, nervousness can be
Hmm.
all up here. So really dropping down, centered, earthy. And from this point, as you breathe in, I want you just to feel like your body is expanding. So you can expand and relax with the out breath. Breathe in through the nose and expand. And relax down into the earth as you breathe out. And we'll just do this 3 more times. Breathe in through the nose and expand. Get bigger and then relax. Allow it all to come down. Let's do 2 more. Breathing in, expand, and relax. And 1 more. Big deep breath in through your nose, into your belly, into your center. And sigh it out.
Mm.
And at this point, what do you experience now, Tripti?
Honestly, like I mentioned, no matter how many times we do certain things, you're always nervous. And I had that feeling when I, started the session. So no matter how many times I host, I am always little nervous about the session, maybe because of the tech or anything, right? But
Yeah.
I actually feel so relaxed, and like as I was breathing, I had my chin going slightly up, giving me that confidence, like, yes,
Mm.
now I'm in my position, in my state, and I'm all ready to, tackle anything. So actually feeling very calm and very confident. This works for sure.
Beautiful. Great.
This, yes.
It's just a reminder, like the nervousness is a physical experience. And so just by using the
All
breath,
right.
grounding and centering, we can just start to bring everything down. So I encourage you, if you're feeling nervous before a presentation or your interview, just try this for 30 seconds. Hand on your belly, feet into the earth or into the chair, and just breathe slowly. Again,
Yes.
all this information is, we've got your hand out. So just take your hand out. You can take this away from you. We wanted something that you can use, keep practicing with. So yes, it is a practice.
Awesome. And guys, like you mentioned, you have the link on the comment section. So it's clickable. You can click the link. You can choose whichever format that you want to see the hands out in. And yes, please keep an eye on that as we go along with the session. And this was really, really helpful, Ben, because I could feel my heart beat fast. I had that palpitation going on, but right now I feel so relaxed. So thank you so much. Getting through that nervousness is very, very, I think, important and helpful when you're stepping into something big, right? So thanks so much. That was really important and interesting. Now moving forward, I've heard a lot of people talk about uh, you know power piece, right?
Mm,
And how it affects your confidence, and it helps you give that energy about anything that you're about to do. So what do you have you know to contribute in that? Because I think the first impression is the most important one.
yes, indeed. It massively. First impressions are often the last impressions, and it takes anywhere between 7 and 30 seconds to make it. Um,
Yeah.
for the power piece, I think it's really important that we show up how we want to be perceived, because
Hmm.
again, the brain being a kind of a judgment piece, a prediction tool, someone, when they first meet you, will immediately scan you for signs of how do you look, how do you present
Yeah.
yourself, how do you stand, and
Yeah.
clothing can be so important. As I said, my background many years ago was in fashion, and it's because I grew up and I was like, oh, I was interested in how clothes not only make us feel, but also what they communicate to the outside. I want to also, because I said I want this to be interactive, if you're at home, I want you to think of a favorite piece that you have, something that when you wear it, you feel great. If you want, you can go and get it. So I'm just going to talk for the next 30 seconds. You can go and grab it from your wardrobe, bring it back with you. Because I've asked you today, Tripti, haven't I? I've asked you to bring your piece. And what have you brought?
Absolutely. I'm wearing my piece.
Yes. Tell us why it's important to you or why it's powerful for you.
Yes. Absolutely. So black and white has always been my color, and in fact, are the basic colors also. But whenever I'm in doubt, whenever I want to present myself in a place where I want to feel confident, I think black and white does the magic for me. Either
Mm.
complete black, either complete white, or a mix of it, like how I'm wearing today. So
Yes.
yeah, I just have like my top basic top and my blazer on, and it gives me a very confident feeling. And along with my power piece, I feel having my hair open actually helps me boost my confidence. I have heard a lot of people say that having like a high ponytail or like a tight bun gives more professional looks, but that makes me feel like robot. And when I speak in that particular hairstyle, it makes me feel that I'm speaking like a robot. But when I have my hair open, it gives me that, that warmth and that confidence, that comfort.
Yeah.
And, I feel great about myself. So that's why I have this piece on me today with my hair open, of course. And you can see my hair tie is just on my hand.
Yeah. I'd also just like to say to the audience that are watching, could you see how excited, passionate, interested, enlivened she was? Just talking about it, not only wearing it, but the way that, you were this and you got this and you're there and the hair and you're talking like, right?
Yeah.
This is engaging. This is something that brings you alive. It is these very small non-verbal cues which when we wear them we feel great. Now I wanted to look smart today, and I like looking smart. It makes me feel more productive. It makes me feel like I want to get up and get things done, compared to wearing
Hmm.
joggers, which I might wear for sports, or I might wear a comfortable jumper now that it's becoming winter in Berlin. But I was just reaching down because these are mine. These shoes I've now had for about 5 years. They are very simple, brown leather brogues, polished. But when I wear these, something something inside me changes. The heel allows me to stand a little bit taller. It brings my spine
Hmm.
up. It has a good heel. I think they're very smart. So when I wear these, I walk into the room 10, 15, 20% more confident. And I love wearing them. I think they look great. Of course, I try and wear them with a smart pair of trousers. But again, the clothing has such a powerful impact both on ourselves to feel more
Yeah.
confident or more assured, to be ready, to be more engaged, and your interviewer, your audience, they're going to feel that. Not only are they going to see that you've made the effort to dress up to look good, but they will feel and experience you in your best self, in the self that you want to show up. And so I would encourage everybody. You kind of tipped at it earlier that some of these nonverbal things are things that get forgotten about or unseen. Now, normally we can be very good to script what we say, but we forget
Mhm.
to script how we're being, and people are watching
Yeah.
us. People are curious about us. So if they see a nice pair of shoes and it's polished and a good pair of trousers that fit, even if it's a color that works for you, I feel good
Yeah.
with black and white, as you said. Wonderful. So where is that balance between something being, yes, professional and smart, but makes you feel
Yeah.
confident, but also you can still feel relaxed and excited about it. Wearing a three-piece suit with this and a pocket watch and it might be a bit stuffy if I wasn't going to a wedding, but
Yeah.
really, really engaging with that. So all of this, even before you've walked into the room, so you can walk into the room feeling great. That's what I'd like to.
Absolutely. I think, and thanks for mentioning and asking about, my power piece. So yeah, that's very important. And I think a lot of people think that it's not really important to get the best choice of their outfit. Maybe they just think of, dressing into something formal or semi-formal because they think it's professional and it's interview. But then they forget about what makes them feel more comfortable and, beautiful. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to keep that in their head while they are preparing themselves for an interview.
Mm,
Thanks for bringing this up, Ben. It was really, really exciting.
good. Mm,
Well, now I think that takes us to another part of a nonverbal communication, which is the body language, right? And we all know how important body language is. So, your expertise is body language and, of course, nonverbal communication. What are some good exercises that our audience can practice, during the interview?
yes. I'd like maybe we just kind of roll on for we talked about those first impressions. When you're meeting somebody, things like making good eye contact are really important.
Hmm.
Um, Smiling, you might be nervous, absolutely fine. And with the HR teams and the hiring teams that I've spoken to before, they understand that most people are nervous. It is a vulnerable position. Handshakes are also very important. All of these things. Now, you may have seen, or consciously or unconsciously, when I came onto this call, I made sure that you could see this part of me. This,
Hmm.
the belly region, we have our rib cage here. The belly region, non-verbally, is a wonderful sign to say, I feel comfortable to make myself vulnerable. Because there's no bones here and all of our important organs, our stomach,
Yeah.
our intestines are all here. You can often see people kind of when they're uncomfortable doing this. Now, this is different from crossing your arms. I'm not saying this is closed, but more like people they can reach here or they want to cover that. It's a non-verbal sign of protection. We are protecting everything. And also anywhere down that's more vulnerable. If you are able to show people this part of you, and of course, need to consider it where it is respectful. This happens in different cultures as well. But my
Yeah.
opportunity to have my hands open to you and show you my belly is a nonverbal signal to you and the audience at home and the community that I feel comfortable with you, and therefore you can feel comfortable with me. I am safe to approach. If I bring my hands behind you and sometimes I go onto Zoom calls and people are like this, right? And you don't really see much about them. You don't really get much information from them.
Yeah.
Lack of information, the human mind will naturally revert to a more negative. thought pattern. What is he doing with his hands? What else is he there? The idea that I could hurt you in some way. However, if you can see my hands, see that I'm not holding anything, I'm not holding any tools, a pair of scissors, anything sharp, anything dangerous, your body will naturally, because it has more information, again, what we mentioned earlier, the more information is powerful, it helps us feel more confident. So helping people when you go into the room, showing them as much of you as possible. So yes, eye contact, a nice handshake and a smile. And then while they can, as much open hand gesture as possible. And so this shows
Mhm.
that the interviewer or interviewers that you are open, you're accessible, and you feel safe around them, and they can feel safe around you. We're always, whatever we're doing, in a space of wishing and wanting to make connection with others. We are mammals. We are part of a
Yeah.
community group. We work better in teams. We work better in community. And so the ability to help engage each other and build that relationship, what we call rapport, build rapport, immediately will set you apart from somebody else who hasn't thought about this, and also increase your chances of the interviewer or interviewers walking away thinking they were open and I felt comfortable around them. I felt good around them. So all of those are really good non-verbal tools that you can use to make the other person feel comfortable and safe.
Nice. Also, that you mentioned about hand gestures, and I think I'm not sure, but this could be a debatable topic, right? Or like discussions can be held on this. I have heard a lot of people say using your hands a lot could be
Yeah.
a distraction for the other person. So, as as a body language expert, what are your thoughts on this? Like, do we have like a limitation on how and how much should we use our hands?
Yeah, wonderful question. And thank you so much for dipping into that. I think that's really important to show. Two things I can share with you that I think are good things to think about. Firstly, symmetry. Symmetry, whether it's at the waist height, whether it's at a kind of shoulder level, normally around heart sight is something that we're passionate about. Let me tell you why this is important. Or if we talk about
Yeah,
big picture thinking, oh, this is the future. This is the vision for the future. And this is why it's important. Let me tell you, this is why you can believe me. Symmetrical
yeah,
gestures, we are more predictable. Again, the ability, if you start kind of doing things over here and this is happening over here and whatever, it doesn't naturally, we don't enjoy it as much as symmetrical body language.
yeah,
The second thing is move slowly. When people are moving their things like this and they're talking about this and they have to happen like this and that happens over here and this is a big plan over here and I was thinking about this the other day and there's just these many things. When we move fast, that is when people can't keep up with art and they start to back away. So yes, you can use gestures too much. Slow gestures that are considered, thought about, they are the ones that people will start to trust and they'll start to move towards. So again, culturally, there are changes everywhere. We'll see
hmm,
different of hand gestures, whether you
yeah,
could be from Brazil or Italy, which are very big in using gesticulation and hands, versus somewhere more like Japan, where it's much smaller hand gestures, much slower, much more kind of closer to the body, more of a center line than the kind of very outwardly moving space. But again, using your hand gestures slowly, using them symmetrically as much as possible. It doesn't always have to be robotic, of course, there's always a sweet spot, but they're the things to think about.
yeah. Thanks so much for mentioning that because and thank you so much for giving that practical approach to it, like when you said using too much of hands and all of that, because we could actually see the difference when you were moving it slowly and steadily and when you were doing it in like a fast pace. So I think that's a very good thing that you are also practicing and giving us the practical knowledge of it, and we can actually see and visualize how it looks, right? So yeah, I was pretty not I wasn't sure about how it looks or what people think about when there is like too much of hand gestures, and I'm sure this is going to be helpful for our viewers as well for the next time they move forward. But I also think that's, because you said like a slow and steady gesture and a thoughtful hand gestures are important. I think it's
Mhm.
all connected with what you're thinking and what you want to talk, so that you already know what's in your mind, and, your hands and your body moves automatically with what you're about to speak,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
It's
So,
both ways. It's both ways. If we slow the body down, we can slow the thinking. And if we slow the thinking, we'll slow the body language. And it really is. It's mind body
yeah.
connection. It's giving people another tool. You can either think top down or you can work bottom up. These are just options that you can use. And again, I'm just here today, and with my work, it's always about bringing awareness to the other person so they can make
Mhm.
a choice. That's it. Sometimes we don't have the choice if we're not aware of it and we don't have the knowledge. If we do have the knowledge, we can make the decisions to do it. We can practice them. Like learning a new language, body language is another language. And so while it might feel a bit strange to begin with and robotic, we become very quickly unconsciously competent at it. And it can be very
Yeah.
powerful. Certainly, if we bring both our words and our actions together, our message becomes a lot more direct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Now we have other thing called posture. So can you
Yeah.
also tell us a little more difference about the body language and the posture? And
Mm.
maybe you can tell us a little more about how having like a correct posture can convey confidence while in the interview room.
Yes, indeed. There is so much research to show that uh, taking on a crouch, or sorry, a slouched position, Tripta, you can do this with me. You can kind of curve your spine, and you can allow your
Yeah.
shoulders to rise and bring your chin down. All of these things start to make us feel more pessimistic.
Hmm.
Lack of oxygen into the lungs, into the body, showing that when we bring our spine up and we bring our chin above our head in the reverse. Now, actually, let's do this. If you now straighten up your spine, you can imagine, if anybody wants to at home, they can imagine just taking a piece of string out of their pocket, putting it in the top of their head, and bringing your head up nice and tall, and allowing your spine to be very tall, and bring your chin up. And if you open up your shoulders,
Hmm.
you can take a breath down into the floor, ground into the earth, and bring that spine up nice and tall. It makes a difference. More ability to breathe in,
Yes, absolutely.
more space to breathe. The diaphragm can come down. You can also speak from much lower into your belly, much deeper resonance. Deeper resonance also helps
Yeah.
the audience feel you're more believable. They feel more comfortable with deep grandfather voices, all of those. It does help. It really does. It allows us more space for our belly to breathe. Posture
Yeah.
is massively important. So again, for all of those that are in interviews, again, focusing your weight into the chair, bringing your posture up nice and tall, keeping your chin above the horizon to keep yourself nice and alert. If you think that down is sleepy, up is alert. Think meerkat, those kind of the cats that stand up together, like looking
Yeah.
up, that kind of vibe. Tall, good posture, and also it also makes a different um, impact on someone, different impression. Than someone kind of walks in and kind of sits like this, maybe covers their hand and says, "I really want the job," or much more open. All those things.
Yeah.
Posture, all of these really, really helpful and important, both for ourselves, but also the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I slouched, number one, of course, it makes me lazy, and maybe I look I don't look so much in the camera because I'm sitting, and my face becomes like a passport size picture. But however, if when I'm like there, like with my shoulders rolled back, like chin up, of course, it gives me confidence, and it allows me to speak what I want to speak, and then also maybe the other person can be persuaded with what I'm speaking, because I'm so much confident about what I'm talking, right? But like you mentioned, maybe people could follow this when they are going to an interview room, and then, just keeping in their head, like, no, I have to maintain my posture. But practice is very, very important so that they don't have to, keep this in their head that I have to have my posture really nice when I'm in the interview room. Can they practice this in a daily basis so that this becomes a daily habitat, and they don't have to, keep in their head that, no, I have to keep my posture right, I have to keep my posture right during the day of interview. So I think, can they practice this on a daily basis? If you could help a little bit on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even when you're eating, our digestion works better when we sit up versus than, for
Hmm.
example, if I take an afternoon and lie on the sofa for a while and I eat something like this, my, my internal organs don't work so well. So eating, standing, I always like to keep my feet just below my hips, keep a nice tall
Hmm.
spine. In yoga, we might talk about tucking the tail in that comes around instead of being very pushed back. All of these things that allow us, they bring our body into alignment. And when,
Yeah.
we are we are organisms that have evolved over millennia to stand.
Yeah.
We don't, it's less of the kind of hunched over kind of primate movement, or, on our bellies or on our backs. We've evolved to stand up. And when we see, we're always worried, or it can be worrying around the idea of sitting at a computer all day, and we're slowly turning into a nation of kind of hunched over, and we have problems with our,
Yeah.
we might also then have problems on our shoulders into our necks, that also develops headaches. So again, posture is really something to think about optimizing how our body works, whether it's the breathing,
Yeah.
whether it's blood flow, whether it's skeletal weight, so the weight of our skeleton. If we're just kind of hunched forward, we're going to be putting too much weight and too much pressure on the front, versus if we're kind of all the way back. So standing up tall, feeling your feet and ankles into the floor, nice good butt base, soft knees. If you can,
Hmm.
tuck the tail underneath and bring the spine up. And those, and you talked around, some of those words around confidence, but also
Yeah.
pride. How do you stand when you feel proud about
Yeah.
something? Normally, it's
Yeah.
breathing in, chest out. Oh, I feel proud to, or you feel great on top of a mountain, or integrity. This is a lovely word.
Yeah.
How do you do something with integrity? To stand tall, to stand strong for something. It
Yeah.
needs this. And all of those things could just help us, again, feel good inside, but also give that feeling to the other person who's watching or we're interacting with, our audience, our listener, our interviewers. Yes.
Absolutely. No, they think that, I'm like, what I observe is bad posture can give you a little comfort because you can just slouch and be there, but unconsciously it makes you lazy. But a good posture, gives you, like you said, that the proud feeling and that confidence, and just keep your heart open whenever you're standing or sitting. So automatically, your body is there in that right position.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm all for chilling out. I am all for
Yeah.
relaxing sofas and being really lazy. I have a very lazy cat, one of those kind of Russian rag dolls. It is wonderful. As soon as you pick it up, it's totally, and there's time for both of these. There really is
Yeah.
time for both of these. But just in that moment when you are in an interview or you're in front of somebody that you're wanting to show up as your best self, again, being
Hmm.
really conscious of the way that you're being, and that includes your posture, your non-verbal language, your gesticulation. All of, again, really brings home the message, and makes you look confident and competent. All the important things for professionalism.
Indeed, indeed. And I've seen a lot of people just work on their professional, background, their experiences when they're preparing themselves for a next interview. And they totally forget about, let's say, their personal experience. So, how
Mm.
important is it to have your personal stories prepared for an interview apart from your professional experiences?
Yeah, great. This is, obviously we have to tell our audience that this is the little bit in our discussion today, which is not about non-verbal, and you do need to speak.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Stories engage humans. When you speak with your friend, you're always telling stories. You're telling stories about that time at the restaurant and this thing happened, or this time when you're on holiday in Italy and this thing happened, and you were here and this happened, and the drama, the plane was late. In business, it's important to do that because the other person, your interviewers, they're also human. And while you're already in that interview, so they should like your CV, your resume. They think that you're skilled enough. They think that you have the experience, you have the competence to do the job. Really, the interview point is telling stories around the CV, but also showing them that you're human. And
Yeah.
stories are the best way. You are going to be asked questions. People are going to ask you, what are your strengths? And can you tell me a time when you put them into practice? Um, they're going to ask you a question around conflict. So imagine you had an issue with a colleague. How would you deal with conflict? And what would you learn from that? These
Yeah.
questions are going to come. And like we talked at the very beginning around the research, knowledge is power, and being prepared can make you feel confident or as confident as possible walking into that room. If you prepare these stories that you know that are going to come up 99% out of 100 interviews, tell us your strengths, tell us about conflict, tell us about leadership, tell us about your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Having those prepared means that when that question comes, you can just tell the story. You don't have to think on your feet. Oh God, what was I? What are my strengths? No, your stories are there. Again, on the handouts, I'm just going to find the one that I've got. On one of the handouts, I've actually made a list of all of the different types of stories that you might be asked around values, strengths, growth, managing others, around leadership, even historical. So I hope that people at home, if this is helpful, go through it, take out what, and just prepare a story. Uh, two to 3 minutes only. It needs to be approximately 250 words. You can write it out or you can practice it just thinking about it. And especially one at the bottom, and I've given an example for me, is around a weakness, because at some point your interviewer will ask, so
Yeah.
tell us about something that you struggle with or an area in your professional life where you don't feel so comfortable. Having that ready, because it's always the most difficult one to ask, because we're worried that if I tell them too much, they're going to think badly of me and I won't get the job. Totally fine. But if you have those stories prepared, you will come off a lot more confident in the way that you tell them, your ability to tell them, and very quickly, it will really just strengthen all of the other parts of the interview technique.
Absolutely, and I think that will also build connection between the other person who is interviewing you.
Yes.
And before I move on to my next question, I really want to thank you, Ben, for being so thoughtful and so sweet in preparing those handouts for our viewers and making this session much more impactful for them because they will be able to implement what we are discussing right now. So uh, you are so thoughtful. So thank you so much for that.
Well, I just hope they're helpful. Again, for those that are watching, there is a Google Drive at the
Yeah.
top of the chat, and we will put this in at the end later. In there is a Google worksheet with all of it. There's also a PDF, which is exactly the same thing, but just depending on your file, you can use that. And then
Hmm.
also broken down each of the four handouts into PNG files, their image files. So whatever is useful, use it as much
Yes. Make
time
the
as
most of it, guys.
absolutely,
Make the
absolutely.
most of it. Now,
Yes.
I have a very difficult question for you because this indeed is a very difficult question for everyone whenever they are in an interview room. Like, let's say we are all in confidence, a research check, power piece check,
Yeah.
tackling nervousness check, everything. And then when you are in between that interview session, and there comes the most difficult question about, I mean, there are a couple of questions for me. It's always, why should we hire you? Right? And
Mm.
then you go. you're numb, you have frowns on your forehead, there are awkward pauses, and you use fillers while answering. Um, Actually, yeah, and then you're stuck you're because it's the most difficult question. So,
Mm, mm.
apart from everything else, how can we handle these difficult questions and awkward pauses?
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel uncomfortable now. What am I going to do? They're going to come.
Yes.
So leave a pause. There is this, I think, this natural feeling that we have to immediately come up with an answer. We immediately need to say, it's while we're thinking.
Yeah. Right.
Pausing is golden.
Hmm.
Somebody ask you a difficult question, they know it's difficult. So breathe in through the nose, feel your bum on the chair, ground yourself, and think about it. Take a moment to really consider it. Slowing down a conversation with pauses makes you sound and look in control. Don't be afraid to pause. Get your thoughts together. You can't see my feet. Normally, we're wearing shoes in an interview. If you feel really uncomfortable, you can start to squeeze your toes together. Your body, when your nervous system is triggered and feels uncomfortable, you will have a sense of energy, which is why at the beginning we did the kind of shaking and the releasing of the energy. You can't do that when someone asks you a difficult question. But normally you're wearing shoes. What you can do in your shoes, if it's really uncomfortable, and I encourage anybody at home right now, just practice squeezing your toes together. Just get an idea of what that might be like. So while you're
Hmm.
thinking, if instead of kind of shaking it out and you're really uncomfortable, just squeeze your toes both at the same time, or left or right, left, right, left, right, whatever. And just allow, just help the kind of uncomfortable energy move or leave your body in some way. And through the toes, because you've got shoes on, is a really good way. Difficult questions are in their nature difficult. If you don't know the answer, you have two options. The first option is to give something as close and honest as possible as a similar story or experience. I don't know the answer to that, but let me tell you about something close to that, or something similar, something that might
Yeah.
also be along those same lines. And the other option is to just to really acknowledge it. And if it's possible, just to say, that's a great question, I'm not sure. I appreciate you asking me that question. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's got I see why that's important. But just at this moment, I think I probably have to go away and think about that or do some more research about it. So acknowledging the difficult question and and sharing a plan to either learn more about it or to look into it, or I'll get back to you on that. Whatever you do, don't lie.
Hmm.
Lying lying creates a physiological difficulty in the body. We as humans, as we hate to lie. Our
Yeah.
smile goes strange, our eyes start to do weird things, our shoulders come up like so. Perhaps you can think of somebody you know, or know of an experience in yourself when a partner, a friend, or a loved one, a family member has asked you something and you've kind of not quite told the truth and you felt it in your body. And you might have seen someone else do the same thing where they've said something to you, and there's something about their body language that you say,
Hmm.
I don't quite get that. We are excellent, 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 excellent at reading other people's body language. So we can
Yeah.
feel. So again, those difficult questions. take a pause, think about it, really consider what might be a good answer. Scrunch your toes if you need to get rid of some energy, and either answer it in a way that says, I'm not sure, but let me tell you about this, or I'm not sure, it's a great question, I'm going to need a bit more time on that. All of those will help you deal with those uncomfortable questions. And otherwise, it's just about traveling through that, because your interviewer will be interested to see how you deal with it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good exercise. Thank you for asking that question. I feel
Absolutely. And I think if you manage to give that or answer the difficult question and you get through the interview and then the interviewer asks, they ask, do you have any questions? Maybe we can put them in the difficult situation by saying, why should I take the job?
yes,
Because
yes, indeed.
initially they asked you, why should I hire you? And now that you've proved yourself and they want you, so you just be like, why should I take the job?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually going back to the first the framing questions for the interviews, at the bottom there's actually questions that you should
Hmm.
prepare to onto the company. What are the future plans? Why do you want me? What specifically stood
Yeah.
for you? All of those questions will engage and make them put them on the other foot, let's say, and make them do the
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, just few tricks and tips, guys, that you can make a note of and use it in your next interview. Well,
Mhm.
I think this brings us quite towards the end of our session as well. And I have one last question for you. Like, how everything has become online, remote,
Mm.
hybrid. So there's always this on and off for working from home or working on site and all of that. So now, how can we prepare ourselves for an online interview?
Yeah, yeah, indeed. The world is changing. The world of business is becoming far more remote, global teams working,
Hmm.
all over the place, people working at home. There's three kind of areas that I think are really important here, which are the tech to start with.
Yeah.
So having good lighting, having a great
Hmm.
camera, those can show professionality. And we've all been there when somebody has got, the camera keeps freezing or we can't quite see them. All of that just makes it more difficult for us to connect and certainly
Yeah.
bring the most professional side. Consideration, the second point is the consideration of our frame. While we may not be together in the same room, this is my stage, let's say, or this is all information. So being conscious of what's behind you. I'm very conscious of you being in my house. I know I have symbols that I want you to be conscious of. I want you to think of me as someone who is interested in artwork. I have a
Yeah.
plant there that I hope that might bring nature or freshness to your consideration of me. I have a meditation pillow there, which I do meditate. I want you to think of me as someone who is thoughtful and contemplative. I have a lovely gold frame here, so there's hopefully a richness and quality there. There's again more plants. Really being conscious of what's behind us. These are non-verbal symbols.
Yeah.
I would also encourage those of you that worry about your space at home. I think there is a lot of understanding these days around people working from home. If you have a blurred background, subconsciously, your audience or your viewer will think, what are you hiding? What else are you hiding from me that you don't want me to see? Now, they may not be conscious of that, but we trust people more when they let us in. I've got nothing for you to hide. This is how I live. I've got nothing to hide. And so that naturally will bubble over into you can trust me. Again, blurring out backgrounds, being really conscious of that. Now, sometimes it can be difficult because we might be coming from home and it's our kitchen. So I would encourage you to choose a background that reflects who you are, a value of yours. maybe even taking a picture of somewhere that you've been to that that you can talk about. A beautiful picture of Rome the last time you went, a gorgeous picture of the Eiffel Tower that you when you went to Paris. Therefore, when the person asks you, "Oh, that's a lovely picture of the Eiffel Tower," you can just tell them a story and you can connect with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there at Valentine's Day 2 years ago, and it was the moment that I proposed to my partner, or my partner proposed to me.
Hmm.
And immediately that storytelling brings people in. So really being conscious of these non-verbal symbols that are very powerful, and people will be considering whether they're conscious of it or not. You've got books. So books, intelligence, literacy, well traveled. You have flowers back there, freshness, all of these things. Nice Pantone. All of those things are very different than if you had a picture of traffic jams or messy kids' bedrooms, whatever. That just to confuse the kind of the
Yeah.
meeting. Um, and the third bit is be really conscious of the way that we use screens. We have grown up with
Yeah.
televisions, iPhones, iPads, all of those. I'm trying to find mine. There's somewhere. They're all passive. We all just look at them. We sit back and we watch television. We don't do anything. So we will naturally have people that when they come onto the screen, like onto a Zoom call or a Teams call, they'll just kind of sit back and just wait for the other person to entertain them. So if you're
Yeah.
presenting, good to make sure that you're finding that balance between having some movement, having your hands physically, observable, so you can actually see what I'm doing to make yourself more engaging. Now, I like to stand because I like to move. I think it's more interesting. I think it gives a bit of dynamicism. I can tell you about the past, the present, and the future. I can tell you about what happened earlier, and I can tell you about what's going on. So being very conscious of our audience and maybe our interviewer who will be sitting on the side, and making sure that what I call leaning in, you're using your space, looking into the camera as much as you possibly can, and engaging with them that way. Those things will help if you're coming from a home environment. Again, a lot of these things are things that other people don't think about. So by just
Hmm.
knowing them, you will have the option and the choice to use them, and they will make a difference from you over the other 95% of the applicants, of those that don't think about them.
Right. Till the time you didn't mention about the virtual background, I was like in an awkward position where I was like, okay, I don't have my real background, behind me. But then as soon as you reach the point where you can use something that would be like an interpretation of your, behaviors or who you are. So I was like, okay, I'm on the safe side. And
Yeah,
like you mentioned, like it's books, it's notebooks, which I love collecting and having, and of course flowers and all of that. I like mentioned in the very beginning, like the neutral basic colors gives me confidence, which is why I have that white and the brown shades, right? But I really like the fact that you mentioned about putting a picture that we've clicked or through our travels and then putting back, and then we'll actually have a story to tell about the picture. So I think I'll probably think of it, find a good picture in my gallery, and I'm going to use that
lovely.
probably from the next time onwards. Thank you so much for mentioning that. So, but now I know I'm on a safer side, also having a virtual background, you know,
Yeah,
which tells more about me. So, yeah, thanks for sharing.
lovely. Absolutely good. It's exactly that. Having those backgrounds that just reflect who we are, because it's
Yeah,
not just, for example, me that you're looking at. You're looking at everything else around me. And Tripty, when I'm talking to you, I'm looking at you, but I'm conscious of your background.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Perfect. So I think the insights have been really, really valuable, Ben. And thank you so much for your time. And of course, your active participation along with the practical approach that you gave us today. But we do have some time limitation, which is why we have to bring the session to an end. But before we wrap this up, is there anything that you would like to add from your end before we end today's session?
Just a big thanks. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for all of those that tuned in, who you're using your time, your attention to listen to me.
Mhm.
It is an absolute blessing to have people that listen to you. So thank you so much for your time. I'd love to share with you that if you have any more wishes for resources, you're very welcome to go to my website, which we will connect in the comments. And there's a resources page, and you can look at things around your personal pitch if that's helpful to you. I work with lots of entrepreneurs and founders who are pitching both themselves but also their product. So there's some downloadable for free worksheets that you can use there. There's some more things around the breathing techniques and helping yourself to calm yourself. If it's more around the calming self, that would be helpful to use there. And also, I obviously talked a little bit around story and developing stories. If you would like, if it's helpful to you, if you'd like more information on that, I've also got something to share with you. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. My information is through the link here. Please just write to me and say, I'd be really interested in receiving the information around the stories, how to build stories, how to find stories, how to develop them, so you can feel more confident. Please just reach out to me. Just send me a quick message and I'll just send them out to you. There's so much I've got to give you that we started with the handouts. They can be downloaded however you wish. More stuff on my website in the resources. And then, yes, if you want more around the storytelling part, please just add me on LinkedIn, message me, and I'll send it straight over.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ben. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope this session has been beneficial for you. You have the handouts link on the comment section. You can open them, you can view it, you can practice it. And like you said, you can connect with Ben if you have any more information that you want to gather from him or connect with him to, better your chance at getting jobs with nonverbal skills. And yes, you can always log on to Tech Jobs Fair for any events, any networking events that's upcoming. And I will see you all again next week. Until next time. So take care, everyone. Thank you so much, Ben. It was
Thank
lovely having you with us today. Thank you,
you.
everyone, and have a lovely day and lovely week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.